Say go live yet? Oh, what's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Lassercast, and I am here with my good friend Dr. Zayas God, Danny Torkel, and let's see. I'll play a little music for a second. Is it playing? Ooh, very nice. Anyway, Dan, went to a horror convention this weekend, right? What was it called?
This was Monster Mania 58. Here is that was the little that they gave us. Yeah, it was great. We had a good time, Charlotte and I.
So, who did you see, man?
So, I'll show off a little bit. Posted a whole almost 20-minute reaction video on the channel, Charlotte and I. You could go watch that video. We had a lot of fun recording it. But if you don't have 20 minutes, here's the legend, Tom Atkins. I have to say, Tom Atkins is 88 years old. He's going to be 89 later this year. And if you meet him, you would swear that this is a man in his mid to late 60s. He's so full of life. He's like loud. He's exciting. He's got a spring in his step for every fan that goes up to him. I had met him before, so he wasn't like on our list to meet. And my buddy Jared, who came with us, he said that he went and met him and that he was so awesome and that he didn't have a long line. I was like, all right, come on, Char, let's go get Tom Atkins. And he was just the fucking best. He was just the best. It was, we told him that we loved The Fog. He started quoting lines from The Fog, like the movie was made yesterday. Yeah, we got the Night of the Night of the Creeps white tuxedo picture. He wrote the line that we like from The Fog and then wrote Thrill Me on it.
Perfect.
Just an all-around awesome dude. Charlotte got to meet McKenna Grace, who is in the new Ghostbusters movies. She was young Theo in Haunting of Hill House.
That's right.
She's in Young Sheldon. She was in Malignant. She was in Captain Marvel. She's in the Annabelle franchise. This is a 17-year-old girl who has a fairly epic horror and just overall filmography. She was super sweet. Charlotte noticed a picture that she had with like her little dog, and McKenna Grace heard her, invited her around the table because she had her dog in like the pet carrier underneath.
Yeah.
Charlotte is into acting. She's done a little acting. She's the lead in her school play coming up in Little Shop of Horrors. She's going to a studio theater production high school. She got into a studio theater program for high school. So for her to see like a young, talented actress who's just so respectful, so graceful and charming, it's like really awesome. And she was a doll. And then we did a photo op, and there's Charlotte dressed as the good guy doll. And there are Los Durifs.
Yes.
Brad and Fiona.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Charlotte and I binged all 2.5 seasons of Chucky. Nice. 20 episodes of Chucky in the last month. We have 2 videos up on the channel. Reviews of season 1, reviews of season 2.
Nice.
And we watched the first 4 episodes of season 3. We will do a review of the halfway of season 3 before the second half comes back in April. So we were really in a Chucky mood. We wanted to meet the Chuckies, and we had a great time. They were awesome. Fiona Durf is like, she's just got like an infectious laugh and great personality. And Brad Dourif is just like, he's a friggin' legend. He's been acting for like 6 decades. He's an Oscar nominee. Like, just being next to him was really like awesome.
But then, have you seen him in the David Lynch Dune? Like, have you watched that recently?
Yes, saw that. I saw that at the movies. He does. So here's an interesting segue. His character in the original is played by David Dastmalchian.
There you go.
In the new ones, he dies in Dune 1.
Spoilers.
Dune 1. Come on. But
Doing one.
Dune 1. But I'm going to see David Desmalkian Thursday night. The IFC Center by me, which I am really happy that I joined as a member back in January when they had their Black Friday kind of like holiday sale. And I joined as a member, and I've already been there probably 5 to 6 times this year.
Wow.
And they always do cool shit like this. Late Night with the Devil was actually going to be at Alamo Drafthouse Friday night, sold out instantly. And I was like, shit, all right, I'll just catch it on Shudder. The night before, they're going to be at IFC Center doing a screening. He's going to be there as well as I don't know who the other person is, but it's him and another person are going to be there for Q&A.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there on Wednesday night. Also, Larry Fessenden is going to be there doing a Q&A for his new werewolf movie, Blackout.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we've done like 6 minutes of basically me recapping the stuff that I either did or have planned for the channel.
Yeah.
Before we get to talk about Suspiria.
Dude,
the last thing I'll say is I got this awesome Craven
Wes Craven. Yeah.
Yeah. Shirt from Studio House Designs at Monster Mania. And you could go and watch that video. I give shout outs either on screen or in the description to all of the vendors that we bought stuff from.
Nice.
Of course, I got a new coffee mug from Ghost Girl Greetings.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we had a really good time.
That's awesome, man. I think this is actually the first time that you and I have shirts that kind of sync up. I got like one of my like 4 horror shirts that I have. It has Ghostface on it, Scream, and then you have Scream at the top as the Wes Craven VHS.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
it's
you
funny.
Could say that when I saw this shirt, I was craving it.
Oh my God. Make sure you like and subscribe, guys, if you want that quality content right there. But yeah, it's funny because Cavity Colors had this amazing sale on Instagram the other day, and I kind of chickened out, but everything was like fucking $4 and like $4.90 for shirts. And I was going to buy like 4 shirts, but I chickened out, man. But we're kind of doing some segues here. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of tonight's dinner, shall we? This disgusting Dario Argento dinner. We're talking about the original Suspiria, a movie that many people consider to be Dario Argento's like definitive movie. Like usually when his name comes up, this is the first movie that gets mentioned. This is the first time I watched this movie too. So I'm glad that we are continuing our Argento month. You've already kind of mentioned a few times, Danny, that this was written by Dario Argento and Daria Nicolodi, and that like that whole kind of witch coven side comes from her influence.
Yeah. So apparently her parents, I think especially her mother, was into witchcraft, and she brought, because Argento at this point was exclusively a giallo director. He had his 3 Animals trilogy, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, 4 Flies on Grey Velvet, and The Cat of Nine Tails in the early 70s. And then Deep Red, which we reviewed and we both love. Deep Red is like that movie that kind of toes that line. There's a psychic, there's the tiniest bit of like supernatural stuff in there, but it's mostly just a black gloved, mystery slasher giallo. And it's really where he made his mark. And then he completely does a 180 and makes this movie, which is entirely supernatural. It's about a witch's coven and tons of like witchcraft and the mothers, the 3 mothers, Mother Suspiriorum, and it's just craziness. There's like zombies and all sorts of lunacy in this movie. But again, and I always reference this because and I recommend it. But the documentary that just came out, Panico, which is on Shudder. I have like a 40 second short review of it here. It's all about Argento's life and his films.
Right.
And it gets to when they talk about Suspiria, they do mention that it was Dario Nicolodi, like her influence because he makes this and he makes Inferno, and then he kind of goes back to what got him to the dance, and he makes Tenebrae, Phenomena, and Opera in a row, and he doesn't finish the Three Mothers trilogy until 2007, and
Right.
by that point, that is not a good movie at all. I watched that recently, Mother of Tears. It is not a very good movie. And he even kind of borrows some of his own work, but just doesn't do it as well as he used to. But yeah, Asia Argento, their daughter, talks about how her mother and the witchcraft elements come from her family, and that Daria Nicolodi basically had to fight him to get her name in the credits as a writer. And he was kind of resistant to giving her writing credit, and that kind of started the downward slope of their partnership relationship. She would be in more of his movies, but I think as far as them being like as like rock solid of a couple, this was pretty much where it started to kind of go downhill because of that. And yeah, like you could really tell listening to Asia Argento that she was much closer. It just feels like, I don't know, but it just feels like she was much closer with her mom, and that there was like a lot of like residual resentment because of like the squabbles between Dario and Daria. But yeah, she does co-write it. She's responsible for bringing a lot of the supernatural witchcraft stuff to his work. And I mean, while you can tell it's the same filmmaker between Deep Red and this, you couldn't get two more polar opposite movies. Like the kills in Deep Red are like graphic and brutal, but they're done in a way that we talked about, where him and the other writer of that movie like wanted the audience to feel like pain, like, oh, that would actually hurt, like, ouch, let's do that.
Right.
The deaths in Suspiria, and we're talking from the opening fucking scene, are so freaking crazy over the top, like stabbing a beating heart in the chest. Like, it is insane, and it almost can't be taken as seriously as like the regular giallo stuff, but at the same time, the style, the look, the color, the gore, the music, and you put it all together, and it makes this freaking gorgeous painting of a movie.
Right.
I was going to ask you, I've been talking a lot as usual. I was going to ask you, because you're the one who is new to Argento. Based on this, do you prefer the giallo stuff that we've watched, or do you prefer this side of Argento, the more stylized and supernatural element?
That's a really good question. I would say that, I'm like a fantasy guy. I love comic books. That's so much of what I consume. I like the idea that there is like three mothers, and that, I did a little bit of research, and I saw that they are sort of like an inverse of the three fates from Greek mythology. They're like the mothers of sorrow. That's all really intriguing to me. Honestly, I could kind of feel like, because you're saying that these movies are very different, and I agree that like the subject matter is different, but I could still see the connective DNA between this and the other three movies that we reviewed. And there's one part in the movie where the killer goes and gets like a straight razor from like a little shelf. And I was like, oh, that reminds me of the other movies too. So like there's always room for giallo, so to speak, in Argento. You're not the only one that does these fucking puns, man. I'm a dad too. But like, I could tell like it's made by the same guy, but I'm intrigued that there's so much underneath this. That's really intriguing to me. Like, I don't know, in that Panico documentary, if they talk about this. When I was doing some like small research, I saw that Argento was like fascinated by this idea of the magic triangle, which is the point where the countries of France, Germany, and Switzerland met. And that's basically where this story takes place, right? It takes place in Germany. And that there's a significance. There's a significance of threes, just like there's the three mothers. There's these three countries coming together for the triangle. So like all this witchcraft stuff is intriguing to me. So if I was going to say if I preferred one style over the other, I would probably say that like I need to see more of these supernatural ones first.
Well, he really. Then the obvious answer is you have to watch Inferno then, because Inferno is like a spiritual sequel to this movie.
Yeah.
I love Inferno. Inferno might be his most, I don't want to say divisive, of like his classic period, like the 75 to 87 period. I love it. There's parts of it that are so insane. There's sets that are just ridiculous.
Okay.
And the ending is something that is just completely bonkers. I would definitely be down to rewatching it. I just saw it at IFC when they did the Argento retrospective. I saw that and Tenebrae there, which was awesome.
Well, I'm down, and we can do that for our next video. I was going to ask you though, is that movie Night with the Devil or whatever the fuck it's called with David Dashmalan or whatever, is that out on Shudder now?
I don't think so. I think this is it's coming to Shudder very soon. I think later this month.
Okay.
It might be coming to Shudder next week, or no, maybe it is coming to Shudder this week, because typically when they do a Shudder showcase at IFC, they're showcasing a movie that is going to go up on Shudder that week. Now, this isn't listed as a Shudder showcase. It's listed as just a special event.
Yeah.
Because it feels like it was added, because it wasn't there a week ago, and then suddenly it was there, and I was like, oh my God, let me get a ticket like immediately.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I also, again, I don't have access to Shudder in my bedroom, so I can't just jump on and check.
Yeah.
But it's definitely coming to Shudder. It's either late March or early April.
And you know what? It might even actually be playing here, because right now it's South by Southwest here in Austin, Texas.
Oh, yes.
So we got all these crazy premieres and stuff, but we'll cover it when it's available for all of us, right? But for now, taking it back to Argento, I'm definitely down for doing Inferno next. Like, that's our next video that we do. I was going to say, like, you asked me how I feel about the genres. With this one, I didn't really care about the protagonist in this. So we're not talking about genre, but we're just talking about the movies themselves. Like the woman, like, Jessica
Susie
Harper.
Bannion.
Yeah, Susie Bannion. She, I felt for her, and I could tell like she was in a horrible situation, but I much more preferred the story of like the writer in Tenebrae, and then like, the opera singer in Opera. Like there was much more to them than there was to this character, I thought. What about you? What did you think?
I was always fascinated how you have an Italian director who cast an American actress in a movie about a German ballet school.
Right.
And maybe that's that like triangle. Because I love Jessica Harper. I think she's stunning, and I think she looks the part as Susie Bannion. As a character, though, she does, things are kind of happening around her.
Right.
As opposed to happening to her. They're happening to the other people around her.
Right. Right.
I mean, the girl, Pat, who runs out at the beginning, there's that. Then there's her friend who ends up in the barbed wire pit. Like, because, most dance schools have things like that. They have like little rooms that are just filled with razor wire.
Right.
you have the blind piano player who, he gets fired from his job because of his dog, and then the dog. Argento always has the one weird animal scene in a movie.
Yep.
Inferno has one. Tenebrae has the crazy dog chase.
Right.
There's the lizards in Deep Red and Opera, and of course the ravens. So you have the crazy animal scene in this movie. Yeah, it feels like things are happening around her more than they're happening to her. Like, yeah, she's being like poisoned for a little bit, but even then, I do like the mystery and like her finally finding out what's going on and like having to find the secret rooms in this ballet studio, which is the front for like Helena Marcus's like witch coven.
Yeah.
That I really love. And just for me, I'm normally a person who needs substance over style.
Right.
This is the movie that I don't care almost at all about the substance.
Right.
Because the style is so absolutely, it's like watching a gory painting.
Right.
Like with Goblin's insane score.
Yeah.
Playing through this. And I think I like the Tenebrae score more having just rewatched it.
Right.
But I think this is probably the most iconic Goblin score. Again, like you said it at the beginning, when most people hear Argento's name, this is the movie I think they think of. And I think it's because of the score. I think it's because of that red color palette, that bright, gorgeous red everywhere.
Right.
The way the lighting and the shots are framed. That opening kill. Like the ending with the door opening and her friend coming out with the throat cut and the imagery in this movie, the music, the imagery, the lighting, the color, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And so like it almost feels insignificant. The characters feel almost insignificant in this movie.
Right.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah.
But it makes it for a completely unique watching experience.
It's so funny, Daddy, because like I make these little streaming tags that go across the bottom just to give an idea of what we're talking about. And then like within like 5 minutes, you cover like 6 of them. And I'm like, oh, yeah, click on it and show it. And like you go from like the beginning of the movie to the end. I'm like, oh, fuck. I put them in chronological order. Like I had it on another dog attack first because you started talking about the guy getting killed. Then you talk about the kill at the end and the girl coming back as like a zombie. I'm like, oh, shit. But just to kind of address directly what you were saying, I think that from everything I've always heard about Argento up until we started actually watching his movies, right? I'd always heard that his movies were like beautiful and extremely gory and disturbing, but they were like works of art and sometimes they didn't make sense. Now, out of all these, I've only watched 4 of them, but I feel like each of the films makes sense. They just maybe have a couple of sequences that are kind of weird, or you're like, you don't understand what's happening in a certain sequence, but in general, the whole story makes sense. And even including this one.
I think that is something that is just symbolic of the differences between American and Italian cinema.
Right.
I like to go back to Opera. She witnesses her like boyfriend, I guess, get like stabbed through the neck.
Yeah.
And she's tortured with like the pins to the eyes to keep her eyes open. And then she flees from that scene, jumps into a car and starts talking about sex and, how she likes to have sex before she performs in the opera, and never mentions the fact that she just witnessed a brutal kill.
Right.
Like if that movie released in America and it was made starring American actors from an American writer director, you'd criticize the shit out of it for what the fuck am I even watching? Is this like this is like trying to be so bad it's good. But I think that's just the nature of in Italian cinema, especially Italian horror cinema of the 70s and 80s, is much more about the style, the sound, the colors, and the kills, and everything else. You just kind of throw it in around it, and you fit square pegs into round holes just to get to the next gorgeous shot, brutal kill, goblin masterpiece, or hey, what we have, this movie's only 84 minutes. What do we need? Another dog attack. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's funny, right? Is that even there's not that many kills in this movie, right? Like, I think out of all the movies we covered, this one has the least amount of kills. It's funny that we started out with Tenebrae because that one has the most amount of kills out of these 4 movies. And then this one, I think there's the 2 girls that die in the very beginning. There's the blind piano player. There is her friend. And then I guess there's all the Coven people that die at the end. But like, I can't think of any other kill in this besides that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like there's kills, just like you're saying, how there's like set pieces and these kills happen. And it's like, okay, we're kind of wrapping everything around these kills. But this movie also has things that happen that aren't kills, but are just as disturbing. Like when they had the fucking bugs in all the women's hair and like on the, that's just as disturbing as a kill,
Yeah, the Italians love maggots.
Right.
I just went to Alamo by me for their Terror Tuesday. They had Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead, the first part of his Gates of Hell trilogy.
Yeah.
And that movie makes no sense, but it has epic kills,
right?
Good music, lots of Fulci eye zooms, and another scene just like that one where the characters open a window and they're just like a fan blows live maggots into the people in the movie. So yeah, weird animal stuff. There you go.
So let's talk about each of these kills because I think they might be my favorite kills in all of these movies. I actually really, really love the kill at the end of Tenebrae. So, spoilers for all these Argento movies that we're talking about. But when the author actually dies himself, I really love that kill. And actually, there's actually a few kills in Deep Red that I love too, especially at the end. Like with the garbage truck and the woman getting her necklace caught in the elevator. I love those. But this one has some really good kills. Like each kill is really good in this. The first one, like you've already said a couple times, is like so off the walls and ridiculous. You have this woman that's stabbed multiple times. Then she falls through glass and she's got a cord around her neck. But she's already dead because the killer has stabbed her literally in her heart, like her exposed heart. Like you said, we see the knife go into her exposed heart. And then almost as like a little side effect, we see her friend with like metal just right in her fucking face. And the
way that her body falls and gets caught in the rope, it's just, what kind of movie you're in for.
Right.
4 minutes into the movie.
Right. But it's funny because we haven't really talked about the plot or anything like that. And you're kind of saying that maybe that's not even as big a deal. But the way it starts, it already is kind of showing you that it's not an American kind of film, right? Because the main character, she's going to this school. The cab driver, she's speaking pretty clearly to the cab driver, but he's kind of acting like, I don't know what you're saying, even though he kind of like repeats what she says back to her, like almost verbatim. And it's just pouring rain. This girl comes running, screaming out of the building. And then she calls on the intercom to be like, I'm here to come to the school. And they're like, go away, right? And so there's all this like rudeness, and it's just not making sense what's going on. And then it leads right up to this kill because the girl that leaves the school is the first one to get murdered. So it's funny because it's kind of jarring like right away and disturbing. And then it leads right up to this kill. but you're not you don't really know anything about the girl that leaves the school up until the point that she gets murdered.
Yeah.
You know? Right? Like, I mean, like she has that little conversation with her friend, but then she gets killed pretty much right away. And then we follow the main character, and even when we see her first start to dance, because it's a ballet school, the very first time that she dances in the movie, she's like ill already and she can't perform, you know? So like it's interesting because you've made this point multiple times, and I love it.
I hate when I
How
get ill and can't perform.
Oh yes, I'm sure your wife feels the same way too. But like, what do you call it? Just the beats are different in these movies, and it's because they're made in a different country and also from a different time too. But that's kind of why I love foreign film, because it's like when you're watching an American movie, you know the beats. You're like, this is going to happen because this happened. This person is going to say this. When you're watching a movie like this, you're kind of like, oh, that's weird. That's weird the way they acted. What's happening now? We're focusing on this person now, and it just makes it much more engrossing, I think.
Yeah, Italian horror is the only type of movie other than maybe like Showa era Godzilla that I want to watch the foreign film dubbed instead of with subtitles, because I think it adds to the charm of the movie.
Mm-hmm,
especially when you move away from the Argento filmography and you get into some of the lesser Giallo filmmakers, then it's so comically awesome. But yeah, like, you know me, I'm one of the biggest supporters of foreign horror films, foreign films in general. It's like Bong Joon-ho said at the Oscars a few years ago, it's a quarter of an inch at the bottom of the screen. Don't let that, quarter of an inch ruin, take away a world of films. I feel like every year we do our top 10.
Yep.
And our top 10 is loaded with foreign films, to the point where I think your number one a couple of years ago was that Dutch Danish movie.
See No Evil, or Speak No Evil.
Speak No Evil.
Yeah.
That was in my top like 3 or 4.
Yep.
And my number one this year, high on your list, was When Evil Lurks. I think it just won the Dead Meat Award on
nice.
Dead Meat's channel. So like, everyone appreciates, everyone, like, it's like the horror community gets it.
Yeah. Your number 2 for this year that just passed, and my number 1 just got an Oscar last night. Godzilla -1.
Godzilla -1, Oscar winner.
Yes. So I mean, like, yeah, obviously these foreign films have their appeal just by the fact that they are foreign and they're different, and we can't predict everything that's going to happen. And it's so funny that you bring up dubbing, because one of the scenes where I thought the dubbing was so like over the top and ridiculous is when she goes and she talks to like the professors about witchcraft, and you have that one German professor or writer or whatever, and he's like explaining the whole like witchcraft, the coven thing, the history of that place. I think like the dubbing is so obvious there. What's interesting about that sequence too is that I can't remember the name of the guy, but she's talking to this one guy who's basically saying that like witchcraft and believing in the supernatural just essentially means you're crazy, which is so funny because like the movie does not take that stance. There's literal witchcraft in this movie. And then it seems like Argento and the Dario, right? Or Nickelodeon, I'm sorry, not get my actresses Nickelodeon. They they seem to be really into this witchcraft stuff and at least intrigued by it. And so there's this one scene where basically they're saying like, hey, people that are into this shit are crazy. But then the movie itself is saying like, no, there actually is this like sinister power. What do you think of that whole sequence there when like she goes and she talks with the writer guy?
I always kind of thought that might have been like something to like get her off the scent of what's happening. Is that Udo Kier's scene? Is he?
Yeah.
That's
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. He. I mean, he's one of those like actors who, especially if it's an older film, you love to see him on screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, that always kind of felt like he was working for Helena Marcos and that he was like trying to get her off the scent of
Yeah.
like witchcraft. I it You didn't see the 2018 Suspiria, did you?
I did not, but I think I'm going to watch it after watching this.
Yeah, it's worth a watch. It's long. It's 2.5 hours, and
Oh boy.
there's one very specific side plot that doesn't feel connected in many parts to the movie, but
Yeah.
everything that happens in the dance studio is really good. And it's really weird, but I love the way Luca Guadagnino, he takes a movie that has one of the greatest color palettes of all time and he just does it the other way. It's such a drab movie, and
Yeah.
and it works, because if it tried to do what Argento does, it would have just been ripping off this movie.
Yeah.
So I really like what he does with it. It's definitely worth watching.
Yeah. Sherry's been wanting to watch it for a while, and honestly, I haven't been a big fan of Dakota Johnson. I think maybe the only thing I've seen her in is like clips from 50 Shades of Grey and Madam Web.
Did
So,
you
like,
happen to see the scene? Did you happen to see the part of the Oscars last night when John Mulaney is giving out?
absolutely.
I almost started crying watching that. I was laughing so hard.
Right.
And I was like, God, I wish we were like all in a room,
Yep.
like watching that together, like having an Oscar party, like you, me, Brian, and
Chris,
Mike Buongiorno, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, and to see that, I would have.
That was so much fun. That was my second favorite part, besides Arnold and Danny DeVito talking about Batman, and then Michael Keaton just having that. Yeah, I love that. That was so good, and of course Nicolas Cage too.
When he said that was would I have done that? Of course I would.
yeah. Hell yeah, I would. Yeah. He's fucking incredible. But per usual, we're getting off topic here. So, like, you watched Panico. I need to watch Panico like real soon, like ASAP. Do they go into this like witchcraft and this mythology in Panico? Like you said that it kind of, this movie influenced their lives because of the creation of it. But like, do they go into the research that they did or anything like that?
I know that it's been like almost a month and a half or 2 months since I watched it, but I know that they talk about Daria Nicolodi's like background with witchcraft.
Yeah.
And how like it was, for her, a lot of this stuff was almost autobiographical.
It's funny because I did very minimal research before I made the notes, and like one of the things I read was Argento and Nicolodi had said that Nicolodi's grandmother, when she was a little girl, went to a school, a private school for like piano lessons, and that she saw black magic happening there. But then like later on, they refuted that story and said that that actually didn't happen. So that was kind of intriguing to me. And another thing I found in my research that was intriguing too, you might have seen this in that documentary, was that they were originally going to make it where it was a school for much younger girls. Did you see that part?
So yes, and so apparently they wrote the script thinking that it was going to be a school for young girls. And then when they were like basically told you have to raise the ages of the people, they kept the script exactly the same. So a lot of the dialogue is, so if it feels like the girls in the school are acting like children to each other, that's why. It's like intentionally done.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I kind of like that in the sense that, like, you know, there's like the magic and the witchcraft is all around, and it's controlling the way people act, and they're controlling what people are eating and how, and like making people sick, and they're, So it goes. I like that aspect of it. It's just a fascinating movie to me.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those movies to me that's endlessly rewatchable, because you don't have to pay attention to every minute of the movie.
No.
You can, if you're like, last night couldn't sleep. I don't know why. Daylight savings, just as I get older, daylight savings just kicks my ass every year.
Right.
And I couldn't fall asleep last night. And I was like, and I didn't put Suspiria on, but like, it's the perfect movie where it's like, if I'm going to fall asleep in 15 minutes, I'm going to get to, I'll, even if I close my eyes, I'll hear Goblin. And if I watch it, I'll see something spectacular and beautiful.
Right.
And I don't have to pay attention, because I could just, feel the red glow of the screen. But instead, I ended up watching Anyone But You with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, because I had rented it on Vudu.
Okay, all right. It's quite different from Suspiria.
Yeah, here on this horror channel, let's talk about the rom-com I watched.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother thing unto itself. And like, that movie actually did really well financially this year.
And I'm really glad, because having watched it, it was like a legit rated R comedy. There's like some nudity. There's a fairly tasteful sex scene.
Oh.
There's a lot of F-bombs and like, like inappropriate stuff. And I didn't think it was great, but I just love the idea that like a rated R comedy did very well at the box office. Granted, it has like the two leads in it look like they were chiseled out of like, God material.
Yeah.
I said to Athena this morning, like, it was a little hard to suspend disbelief that Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney were struggling to find love.
Right.
Other than that, I liked it.
Nice. Yeah. Well, maybe I'll check that out too. But before I get to that, we got to keep going through our Argento marathon that we have going on here. Let's talk about the finale of this movie, because it's pretty fucking epic.
Yeah.
Basically, Susie Bannion, she's the last girl standing. Her friend has been brutally murdered. She's fallen into some barbed wire, which the idea of it is so disturbing. And then the killer comes by with a switchblade and just like slices her throat open, and it's really graphic. Like, you see the flesh getting parted as it cuts her throat, and there's not this big red spray of blood. There's just like, it's like skin, that's just the flesh peeling back. Really disturbs me. And then essentially she uncovers the women in the coven talking about getting rid of her, basically, and she's chased. She eventually ends up in this room where there's this fucking like hairy creature, which we had seen in the beginning of the movie, starting to come out of a closet. And that in itself, I thought, was actually very scary. That was bothering me. And then we have this figure, this head of the school figure. So, like, what do you know about that figure based on seeing these other movies and then also seeing the documentary?
Helena Marcos, you mean, right?
Yes, yeah.
She's Mater Suspiriorum. She's like the head witch here, and there's the whole three mothers thing is that there's three mothers who represent like almost like the gates of hell, kind of, and they each have control over a building in a specific part of the world. So this is in Germany. Inferno, it's an apartment building in New York City, right near Central Park.
Oh shit.
Okay. And then Mother of Tears, I believe, is in Rome. And so that's, you have the three mothers, and Helena Marcos is supposed to be like the leader of this coven. The first time I saw this years ago, I thought the effect at the end was a little wonky, but the more I watch it, the more I kind of like it, that she's like super old, but also like because the other mothers that you meet are younger. So she's like the older sister of the witches.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I mean, it's like the effect is bizarre, and like like it's so epic because like it's unlike you know, you were talking about the differences this and the Giallo movies. The way this one ends, it's like almost like apocalyptic because everything's like breaking and you know, because essentially she stabs her, and then you know the whole school just essentially like blows up, you know, and that's so unlike all the other movies we've reviewed so far.
And you know, you put down at the bottom the ending, the actual ending of like she makes it out of the school, which like explodes and is on fire, and she just like gets into a cab with like a big smile on her face as the credits roll, focusing on the flame.
Right, right.
It's such a cool little scene.
I was thinking that like something bad was going to happen because she's smiling and it's like you're sort of like thrown off, and I thought she was going to get hit by something or someone was going to kill her, but no, not at all.
She would get, you know, accidentally stuck on a hook and dragged behind a garbage truck,
Right,
or
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
a raven would fly out and
Poke her eye out. Yeah, exactly, exactly. No, but I mean, I actually really enjoyed this one. I think that if I was going to rank the 4 movies that we've covered so far, the 4 Argento movies, I don't know why, but Opera is kind of high for me. I think because of the sequences where they put the needles under her eyes. I think that's like so fucked up and intense. And some of the shots in Opera are really great. I love all the stuff with the ravens too. I'd probably put like Opera, then Tenebrae. No. Opera, then Deep Red, then Tenebrae, then this. And that's probably sacrilegious on a lot of people's lists. But what would you, how would you rank them?
Argento's very weird for me because every time I watch an Argento movie, it especially like in that period, that golden era that he has, whatever movie I just finished watching is my favorite one. So it's very strange for me. Tenebrae really grew on me the last time I saw it. I saw it at a Shudder showcase, in a packed theater at IFC. Hearing that score in the theater, you know, seeing that crane shot and everything, and that blood splatter at the end.
Yeah.
It really darted up my list.
Yeah.
Suspiria, to me, I still kind of feel like if now it's weird to say this because you had never seen a Dario Argento movie and we started with Tenebrae. But I still kind of feel like if I was approached and somebody went, "Oh, you like horror movies, right? I want to get into Argento. What should I watch?" I'm probably going to say Suspiria.
Right.
Because it's just the maximum, it's the most Argento.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
like
right.
it's got everything. It's that the color palette, everything. It just works. I don't even know if it's my favorite. It's just the movie I would probably say. I would Deep Red I really like. I think I would go with either Suspiria or Tenebrae at number 1, the other one at number 2, and then Opera and Deep Red. I think I like the scenes in Opera the way you're talking. The scenes with the ravens, Raven Cam, the needles.
Yep.
But Opera's also really fucking weird.
Yeah.
And the ending just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, that ending
so
does
I
mess
probably
you up,
put Opera at the bottom.
Oh.
But like I loved Opera. Watching it for this to review it with you, I was friggin' loving it again. And like it and so like me putting it at the bottom feels like I'm insulting it, but I'm not. It's just I genuinely love everything from this time period.
Yeah.
You're only now 2 movies away from finishing. So you've seen Deep Red, Suspiria. You need to watch Inferno. You
Right.
saw Tenebrae. You need to watch Phenomena, which is just, that is the most crazy of all of his movies.
Okay.
With a 15-year-old Jennifer Connelly, a wheelchair-bound Donald Pleasance, Iron Maiden on the soundtrack,
Oh yes. Okay,
and
now we're talking.
a chimpanzee with a switchblade. So
Perfect.
yeah, but then you've seen Tenebrae and Opera. So I think it's like a 7-movie stretch, and you've seen now, or 8-movie stretch, and you've seen 5 of them or 4 of them.
4 so far.
Yeah.
Soon to be 5. Yeah. So I mean, dude, maybe we'll just end up fucking doing that for the channel, unless there's other things that we have to review. So, like, what else is coming up on the horizon for us? Like, what do we got? Go ahead.
I'm gonna have reviews of Larry Fessenden's Blackout, his new werewolf film.
Yeah.
With I'm gonna try to record at least part of the Q&A and upload that to the channel.
Nice.
That'll be Wednesday night. Thursday night, I'm gonna have Late Night with the Devil, a review of that. Probably do a short, spoiler-free review of that, and then try to post another Q&A with David Desmalkian and whoever else is there that night. So that's what I have coming up this week. Charlotte and I have another review of Chucky, the first half of season 3. As far as us, like, we could do, I sent you a screener for a new movie that's on VOD now called Frogman.
Yeah.
Really fun cryptid tale, done in the tradition of The Legend of Boggy Creek and Blair Witch. I bought speaking of cryptid, I bought a movie called Cryptids from Scream Team Releasing. The same guys who did The Barn and The Barn 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A movie that they had been working on for 10 years. And I bought that on Blu-ray, and I watched it the other night. I was going to throw a review of that up on the channel.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird, kind of like a weird time. It's mid-March. I just had the horror convention, going to the movies a couple times this week, talking Italian horror with you. So yeah, I'm good to keep doing Argento, and then when we, come up with a concrete plan of action to dive off of that train, we could. I'm back.
Dove right there.
We can, plan then.
Sounds good, man. Yeah. I'm down with just, still watching these Argento movies, going through this run that you're talking about, maybe even covering all 7. But of course, I'm down for covering some new releases as well. So if you guys like listening to me and Danny talk today, if you're enjoying our Argento coverage, make sure that you subscribe. You can always use a like. And also, why don't you take those 4 movies that we ranked, Tenebrae, Deep Red, Opera, and now Suspiria, and why don't you guys rank them for us in the comments? We'd love to see it. Until then, these are 2 middle-aged men saying, see you next